Okay, the Taiwan Philanthropic Study Institution organize academic conference every year, inviting scholars from the domestic and the international backgrounds to discuss issues related to sustainable development and follow the latest global trends. Present discussions have focused on highly relevant concepts such as ESG and SDG. These events also help young students develop a sense of the sustainable development, align land with the society trends, and preparing them to become leaders in the future. We would like to express our gratitude to the speakers for participating in this event. First, thank to Mr. Dobers from Poland, a board member at SKB Group, and he is well known in the domain of the economic and the business relationship between Poland and Taiwan. Next, we have scholars from the Czech Republic and the Danjiang University, including Professor Dev, Associate Dean of the Prague City University Business School, who has a long supporting our seminars. We also welcome the new speakers, Professor Mark and Professor Lusas, offering the long-term academic exchange between Taiwan and the Czech Republic. Finally, we appreciate the participation of the Professor Chen Zhiwei and Professor Huang Chenyu from the Department of Public Administration. The younger generation is earlier exposed to global environment trends, fostering the development of the relevant soft skills. Their contributions not only bring country new perspective, but also play a critical role in the future of the sustainable development. Okay, first speaker, we welcome Mr. Dobers.
My name is Bartek Dobosz, and I'm representing SKB Group Holding, which is already present in Polish and European Union market for 33 years. We are a family-owned company connected together with family office. We are present in several sectors, economy sectors in Poland and European Union. We invest in real estate development. We've got companies which are producing different things for like driving axles, transmissions for the off-highway vehicles. We have investment fund. We have also a construction company and several other projects which are under SKB Group name. And this gives me some kind of legitimization to talk about the project of tightening of the cooperation between Taiwan and Poland. Well, this year I visited Taiwan 3 times already, and I schedule my more often visits in 2024 for sure. Why did I do it? I did it because I guess Taiwan is a great country to look for also opportunities for European Union countries, for Poland, as well as for our own businesses here in SKB Group. As mentioned before, we are doing development, for example, of electrical vehicles as well. So my reason to be there was also looking for the partners in Taiwan, which can prepare, which can deliver some kind of solutions which we are looking for our products. And what I can say with the success, we found some of them there. But besides visiting Taiwan just to make one-off or business for myself, I saw as something different, which is I would say a kind of joy and care to get connected with Taiwanese companies, with Taiwanese people. And when I made some studies here in Poland, I saw that there is no chamber of commerce, Polish-Taiwanese chamber of commerce. And so after first and second and after the second visit, this idea came to my mind, and I started to talk with the local Polish authorities. I started to talk with our local authorities representatives in Taipei, and I discovered that this could be a great opportunity and that this could be a great idea. Generally speaking, over last years, we see bigger movements in terms of cooperation between our countries, but I still believe that it could be done much more, and it could be done in the way of much bigger efficiency in terms of this cooperation. We've got already some representatives like Taitra in Poland, or like in Polish association, trade association, parallelly to Taitra in Taipei. But what I discovered is that we should have some more business related institution, which would be this Chamber of Commerce, which would for sure help to establish from the beginning till the end a real working, fruitful cooperation. And here, I mean, not only business, I also see a great potential in cooperation between universities, which are in both countries very well developed. I see a big potential in cultural organizations, and of course, business itself as well. Business means simple trading, whatever we have got here in Poland, and whatever you have got in Taiwan and in Asian countries, but also establishing real businesses by opening up subsidiaries, companies, production facilities in Poland and in Taiwan. I see that Poland, for sure, being a European Union member since 2004, is a gate to European Union itself. Also, I see in Taiwan great potential to open the doors for other countries in Asia. And that is my intention, and that is something which was already decided, that this Chamber of Commerce will be announced between Q1 and Q2 2024. So I believe that also thanks to Dr. Chow, who would be also involved in this organization, we would be able to strengthen our relations, not only on the political matter, but also on the other way of doing business, making exchangements in terms of students, in terms of ideas in the universities, about healthcare, and about whatever is developed best in our both countries. I saw already that with our and I don't think that we should do it alone. I really believe that such moves should be done also with alliances countries like Czech Republic, like Slovakia, like Lithuania, which are already also very interested in doing business with Taiwan. So I hope that our Chamber of Commerce will make an alliance with similar chambers in our neighborhood countries. Well, there's a lot of things to be done. I believe that when we start and when we will open up our offices in Taipei and in Warsaw soon, lots of such a great help and support will come. Like I already had the chance to touch in Taiwan, being a visitor over there this year. And there are many possibilities here. There are many possibilities of implementation of know-how from Taiwan We are investing in Poland a lot in renewable energy. At the moment, already 40% of our supply of energy in Poland is coming from renewable sources. Now, whole European Union is very focused on ESG strategies, and all of the companies has to be prepared for that. Has to take actions and not only talk about greenwashing, but really do and really take care of what and how things are produced in Poland according to environmental care. So there would be a big ocean of opportunities, and I really hope that this project will go ahead with support also from my own person, which comes from the business. So I understand how to support, and I understand how to lead some of the projects. Thank you. I guess I did my time well. I consumed my time well.
Hello, my name is Lucia Rivera, and I'm a researcher from Prague City University School of Business. And today's talk will be about my research project, which is labeled Building Sustainable Communities and Using the Past to Create the Future. So let me first of all preview the table of contents, what the talk today will be about. So first of all, I will introduce the background of my research study. I will introduce the specific case study I was investigating. I will highlight the research problem. There is an existing research gap stemming from theoretical as well as practical perspectives. I will present key literature contributions, the type of methodology that I used to develop my research, how I collected and analyzed the data, what are the findings of my research, and some initial conclusions stemming from it. And at the end, I provide a list of references which I used to develop this presentation. So my research belongs to the sphere of cultural heritage. And I would like to first of all preview the background of this field or of this sphere. Cultural heritage in the European context is a significant area to maintain strategic position in, because in fact it's the biggest or the key contributor to world tourism industry. Specifically in Italy, where my research is applied, culture plays a significant role, not only in terms of creating jobs, but also in terms of bringing value to economy. So it has a significant value contribution. However, in Italy, the sphere of culture has been rather independent from other sectors and is in the domain of public sphere. The cultural heritage is decided on by the Ministry of Cultural Heritage, so it belongs to the public sphere. And let's say other sectors have not been involved or welcome to participate in strategic formulation. But based on the conference held by OECD in 2020, post-COVID pandemic, it was actually stated that it's critical to embrace more ecosystemic view of culture, and the culture should be better integrated with other segments. So in fact, cultural repositioning is crucial, and in integration of different solutions in the culture sphere by incorporating innovation, digital technologies, the culture could bring additional value to communities. So with that premise, hand in hand goes my research, because I was researching a specific site, archaeological site, which is located in the southern part of Italy, not too far from Bari. The site's name is Parco Archeologico di Siponto. And on this archaeological site, they actually took a very innovative approach to restoration, as you can see on the picture provided on the right-hand side. The Ministry of Cultural Heritage and Cultural Activities for Tourism in 2016 approved very innovative project on the site, something that is very uncommon in this sphere. And it's quite unique, not only in Italy, but also worldwide. such types of restorations don't typically happen on archaeological sites. So it falls out of the mainstream type of restoration. And you can see it's very, very subtle, very elegant, and it doesn't interfere with the landscape. And it restores what the building, in this specific case, the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore, could look like back in the pre-Christian times. So what is interesting about it is that the project, okay, first of all, won a medal, gold medal for Italian architecture. But what is important for my case study that's concerned with value creation is that there was a significant increase in tourism since the restoration. On average, 80,000 of tourists per year visited the site, compared to hundreds of tourists that visited the site before the restoration. So the increase in tourism has been significant. So what am I specifically looking into in this research? I was authorized by the Ministry of Cultural Heritage and Cultural Activities for Tourism to investigate, in fact, what led to that success. So what was behind the scenes? How come we achieved this unprecedented success? And in fact, okay, what else can we do, or what could be done to make this specific site more sustainable and bring higher value? Since at the university, my focus is on strategy, as I mentioned before, I was looking into the area of strategic decision making. And specifically in my research, I was studying what processes and contingent influencing factors played a role in this specific case to reach such unprecedented outcome. Also, my concern was, okay, what can we do to make the site more sustainable, as well as can this model be exported elsewhere and function on a different archaeological site? My research is trying to fill a gap from theoretical and practical perspectives. From theoretical one, what I noticed is that there doesn't exist a precise terminology to label this restoration. Also, there doesn't exist a model which would effectively connect factors and processes in one unique fashion. From the practical perspective, what could be done to achieve long-term sustainability by applying the model that emerges out of this study with specific improvements, and also can the model work elsewhere on another site? My research was drawing literature from different sources, first understanding what are the different technical labels of different type of restorations, and also what are the regulations behind interventions in cultural heritage management. Were there any actually illustrated benefits of the site increasing value when innovation was involved? What are the specific decision-making processes that take place in this sphere? As well as what are the different factors which play a role in governmental institutions and specifically in cultural heritage management? My methodology was based on an interpretivist research paradigm, which is in line with phenomenological tradition of Husserl and Heidegger. It's an inductive research approach because at the end of the research emerges decision-making model. It's a qualitative design of study because I conducted semi-structured interview with participants. It's based on a case study, and I use heterogeneous sample group because I was concerned about the viewpoints of different professionals involved in the decision-making process by using purposive sampling technique of selecting only participants who were actively involved in decision-making. Sample size was set to 20 participants because the case study is rather small, and these type of decisions are taken in small groups. And I used transpositional cognition approach to analyze the data, which merges descriptive and interpretive phenomenological approaches in one unique fashion. What were specific findings of my research? What was what was actually emerging from the research was that classical conservation in this specific case led to devalorization. So the site before didn't communicate value effectively, could not bring tourists, was very abundant. In this specific case, final decision restored values of genius loci. The values, archaeological value, architectonic value, and artistic value were effectively embedded in the decision-making process. Without the strategic intuition, the work probably would not be possible. So it actually involved proactive approach of the restoration manager or the director of restoration. It's also critical to have public participation in decision-making, even though in this specific case was very limited, but still the traits of it were present, and that led to innovative outcome. Also, without the management and communication, the project would not be possible to implement. What is emerging also, there is a big conflict, and still it's not clear what kind of language to use to label this intervention. But there were communicated some strategies which would actually increase long-term values, which were tailored towards marketing, communication, entrepreneurship, and logistics. And also it was proven that innovation in this specific case has positive impact on regional scale economy. So if in the initial conclusions, I will be developing at this stage decision-making model, which will effectively capture factors and processes, and that hopefully will increase the value of the archaeological site. There is a potential to create new terminology, which could be embraced in the new research. And hopefully the model will be useful for the site itself, but also for other sites which are facing similar types of decisions on restoration. And here is my list of references that I used to develop today's presentation. I would like to thank you for your time. And if you would like, you can always email me. If you have any questions, I will be happy to address them. Bye-bye.
Before I begin, is it possible to enable screen sharing so I could just show my PowerPoint with everyone? If that's not possible, it's not a problem, and I can just speak as well. So this morning, I would like to talk about net zero and our attempts to reach net zero. And I would like to talk about carbon offsetting and small and medium-sized enterprises. Now, the UN has set a goal of reaching net zero by the year 2050 in order to reduce global warming to a maximum of 1.5 degrees higher than it is now. And we find that 76% of all emissions are created by about 20 countries, the UK being one of those countries. Now, in 2019, the UK government passed a law in which it said it had to reach net zero by 2050. And as part of their strategy, they took two approaches. The first one is reduction of emissions, and that would account for 60% of reaching net zero. But the second strategy was carbon offsetting. Now, carbon offsetting is investing in projects which capture and store carbon long-term from the atmosphere. This can be done either through technology or through natural means, such as reforestation, habitat restoration. And currently within the UK, there are 2 approved codes. So any company that is interested in carbon offsetting can apply to the Peatland Trust or the Woodland Trust and get carbon certification to prove, to show that it's reaching net zero with 0 emissions, either from reduction and carbon offset. The problem, though, with carbon offsetting is that it's seen as a strategy used by large organizations, that it's not relevant for smaller organizations. And this is a problem because 99% of all UK-registered companies are SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. They employ 60% of the British workforce, and they're responsible for 44% of all emissions. So it's important that we get SMEs on board if we wish to reach net zero. Yet the sad fact is that 77% of SMEs have no plan for reducing emissions, and certainly many of them are not involved in carbon offsetting. Yet this seems quite bleak, and if we look at current projections, then we're not likely to reach net zero by 2050. But there is some hope, I feel, because SMEs do have an interest in carbon offsetting. They do have an interest in the environment. The problem for many SMEs is they lack information. They lack awareness of the different schemes that can potentially be used. They lack knowledge about getting involved in reducing emissions, in carbon offsetting, and often they have very competing priorities, simply concentrating on existing rather than focusing on other activities. But there is hope. Now, carbon offsetting as a scheme, sadly, has come under a great deal of criticism. We heard earlier the phrase greenwashing, which is often used in terms of carbon offsetting, that is simply used as a means to continue business as usual, not to focus on reducing emissions and simply investing money in some scheme somewhere else and just to carry on. There are other criticisms of carbon offsetting, that by establishing reforestation projects in different locations globally, that those local communities can be negatively affected. People have actually been removed from their land in order for carbon offsetting schemes to be established. And there is a lot of criticism about whether carbon offsetting actually works, because simply restoring a habitat in one place while destroying it in another means that there is minimal impact, or it's argued that there is minimal impact on such a scheme. Now, carbon offsetting works if it is a scheme which captures carbon from the atmosphere and it stores it long term. And the most effective way of doing this is habitat restoration, helping biospheres thrive and protecting them on a long-term basis. And more smaller companies are seeing the benefits of being involved in environmental work. Many SMEs report that it works as a reputation enhancer, that their employees enjoy it, that their customers like it. Companies that are more involved in their communities and the environments in which they operate are seen as more attractive for potential employees. They're seen as having higher engagement from their employees and greater retention. And one of the areas that many of these SMEs are involved in is habitat restoration. We see them investing in NGOs and private sector organizations such as Mossy Earth, which you can see on the screen, because they see the value in long-term habitat restoration. They see it as something very beneficial and important. In fact, the King mentioned it in his speech yesterday when he talked about creating an environment and protecting our children's children and giving them a future. So one of the things that we need to do if we want to reach net zero is we need to encourage SMEs to get more involved in carbon reduction, first of all, but also carbon offsetting. And so we need three things for this to work. First of all, we need to have long-term protection or long-term strategic plans, land set aside for habitat restoration where land usage is not going to change. We need to be involving more of the private and public sector and charity sector in this work. So there needs to be a combination of governments and NGOs, and therefore connecting it to SMEs who are likely to fund these schemes. Now, currently, many of them fund it out of altruistic reasons, or they see the benefits of it. But one of the things that current schemes, that current investment in habitat restoration doesn't bring is carbon certification for companies. It's not offered. So one way that we can go about it is to utilize three things. The government has a plan for setting aside more land within the UK for habitat restoration, because the UK has a very degraded environment. Even though the government admits that it's limited in terms of skills that are required for such restoration projects, NGOs and the private sector have that. So we need to then connect them to the government's work so that we can work together towards reducing our carbon. Thirdly, we need to encourage SMEs to continue their investment in this habitat restoration projects, but also, and one way to do this is to recognize their contributions as part of their carbon offsetting schemes, so that they can help us reduce it. And by giving more recognition for their investments, then we're more likely to get more SMEs involved, and therefore the chance of reaching net zero is more likely. At the end of the day, carbon offsetting is not a replacement for reduction of emissions. It's a complementary strategy, but it has the added benefit of this scheme of restoring habitats. Now, restored habitats are the best way of removing and storing carbon long term. If we can encourage more smaller businesses to be involved, then we have a greater chance of long-term and larger amount of habitat restoration, which is actually going to mean that we reach net zero by 2050 or nearabouts, rather than at the moment, we're less likely to do it. So thank you very much for your time this morning.
Okay, so good morning and good afternoon, everybody. My presentation is called Unveiling Ethical Foundations and Examination of Corporate Social Responsibility and Environmental and Social Governance Stances Through Normative Assumptions and Ethical Theories. Basically, the idea behind the presentation and the paper that I'm going to be submitting next month is that there are different normative frameworks, theories about what's the nature and the purpose of the business in the society. The shareholder theory responsibility, for example, advances the view that the purpose of the business should be to maximize the shareholder value, whereas the stakeholder theory responsibility says that the purpose of the business should be to be a good corporate citizens, and that implies that there should be therefore different CSR and ESG initiatives that the organization should do. But importantly, I wanted to today examine the underlying ethical assumptions, because these thinkers, Milton Friedman and Edward Freeman, to defend their views, are sometimes using normative assumptions or arguments derived from ethical frameworks, and sometimes these ethical frameworks are being used in the argument inaccurately or incorrectly, and therefore the normative power behind these arguments is weaker than what it's normally assumed. So today I'm not going to be reviewing all these ethical frameworks and how these ethical frameworks are being used in defense of these views. I just want to zoom in on one, and that is Kant's deontology, which is an ethical framework that has several categorical imperatives. And one of the categorical imperatives is the following one, principle of universalizability, where the reasoning goes like this: whenever we want to engage in some action, we should ask ourselves, would we like to live in the world where everybody behave according to this maxim, that is, everybody engage in that action all the time? And if the answer to that question is yes, we have a moral duty to engage in such an action. If the answer to that question is no, we have a moral duty to abstain from such an action. And the principle of universalizability is being used by the proponents of shareholder theory responsibility. Specifically, the argument that they are making is that there is a principal-agent relationship. The shareholders and managers and the CEO entered into a voluntary contract, and they are bound by the conditions of the contract, and that contract is that they need to pursue shareholder value, maximize shareholder return. So that's one form of universalizability application, because we would like to live in the world where everybody stick to the conditions of the contract or followed promises that they made in the past. On the other hand, the stakeholder advocates, the advocates of stakeholder theory responsibility, use the universalizability condition to advance their view slightly differently. They are saying that we would like to live in the world where organizations not only care about shareholders, but care about having a positive impact on all stakeholder groups. And we can see in the quote that the universal rule is invoked quite explicitly for that purpose. And thus, one of the advocates of the stakeholder theory of responsibility argues that the deontological approach imposes corporate social responsibility on firms, even if it's to the financial detriment of shareholders. And that is, they are saying that there are other duties other than the shareholder maximization. And it looks from this superficial review that the proponents of shareholder and stakeholder theory responsibility are using deontology in their favor, but how can a theory be used to argue for something and at the same time it's opposite? And I think the answer to this question is because they have an imperfect understanding of deontology. They are using only Immanuel Kant's deontology from his first book, that is Groundwork for the Metaphysics of Morals, but he also wrote a second book where the universalizability condition is developed into what's called perfect and imperfect duties. And Kant is basically saying that not all duties are equal, that we have a perfect duty where we are prescribed to abstain from some behavior and we are morally blameworthy if we don't do that. And then there are imperfect duties where we are not morally blameworthy if we don't engage in certain actions, but we could be paying them. So we can see that there is a difference in the normative power and how we should decide whether the is perfect or imperfect. Well, Kant provides the following decision procedure for more reasoning. This is a sketch I made from his second book on Metaphysics of Morals, and he says that whenever we are interested in deciding whether some action is morally praiseworthy or blameworthy or not, we should try to formulate that maxim. And here the shareholder advocates are saying that being bound to the promise is a contradiction in conception. That is, we can't even conceive a world where everybody failed to meet their promise, because in such a world the concept of the promise wouldn't exist in the first place, and therefore it's a contradiction in conception that lead us to having a perfect duty not to violate the promise or the conditions of the contract. So in this case, if we apply it to the shareholder-stakeholder debate, we can see that shareholders are advancing a universalizability condition, but also the perfect duty, whereas the stakeholder theorists are advancing, because then we can continue, the answer to that is no, and there could be a contradiction in the will, and stakeholders are only advancing the imperfect duties. We can universalize, we can imagine the world where no company would care about all its stakeholders. It would be a world which wouldn't be contradictory, simply it wouldn't be preferable. So there is only an imperfect duty to do that. But if there is a conflict with these two duties, we need to favor the perfect duty over the imperfect one, and hence the shareholder theorists have a stronger normative argument from the perspective of Kant deontology. So that's my quick conclusions from this deontological analysis of these frameworks. And if you are interested more about this subject in more detail, you can send me an email to marek.k@praxcity.university.cz. Thank you for your attention.
My name is Chen Yu Huang. I'm an associate professor from Department of Public Administration, Tankang University. And my presentation will be on peace and sustainable development, the analysis of Ireland's neutrality policy. And my presentation later on will be in Chinese. And I have prepared a short pre-recorded presentation that follows. And let me share the screen. 今天很高兴参加全球宏观经济的先进发展策略研讨会。我要发表的论文主题是和平有序，爱尔兰中立政策之分析。本论文分为4个部分，包括导论爱尔兰中立政策之严格及特色、爱尔兰中立政策之变迁以及结论。2015年，联合国启动2030有序发展目标，该目标中的第16项是和平、正义以及强大机构，也就是创建和平包容社会，以促进有序发展，确保司法平等，建立有效、负责和包容的机构。本文希望爱尔兰中立政策的策略与发展，可以作为透过创建和平以促进有序发展的参考个案。 传统上，中立政策为爱尔兰国家安全策略的重要传统及原则。中立政策为小国于国际政治环境下受到欢迎的一种政策选择。然而，21世纪的国际政治已跳脱传统的战略安全，非传统安全的兴起，使当代国家通过传统的中立政策以保障全球化下的国家安全时，感到矛盾与局限。因此，本文的研究目的有二。第一个研究目的是希望探讨爱尔兰中立政策的发展历程，以及非传统安全兴起后对爱尔兰中立政策的冲击及挑战。第二个研究目的是希望爱尔兰中立政策的研究成为非传统安全下的小国安全政策发展，特别是中立政策的选择，可以作为比较研究的重要参考个案。在研究问题的部分，本文的研究问题主要有二。首先，本文希望分析爱尔兰的中立政策的发展沿革，借以了解爱尔兰中立政策有何特色。其次，本文希望分析爱尔兰中立政策在非传统安全的冲击下究竟有何重要转变，爱尔兰中立政策是否成为一种迷思，亦或其内涵有了新的发展与变迁。爱尔兰独立之初选择采取中立政策，其主要考量包括以下两个原因。第一个原因是爱尔兰独立后希望透过军事中立避免卷入更大规模的军事战争。第二个原因是爱尔兰的中立政策与英国此一强邻有关。历史上，爱尔兰长期受到英国的侵略与压迫，因而此形成爱尔兰的反英情结。于此背景下，爱尔兰独立后，面对第二次世界大战的爆发，便选择采取中立政策。作为一个小国，爱尔兰清楚自身的国防力量有限，参与二战将使国家陷入灾难。因此，二战爆发前夕，爱尔兰第一任总理瓦莱拉便发表演说，清楚宣示爱尔兰的中立政策。针对爱尔兰的中立政策，瓦莱拉表示，爱尔兰人民和政府的希望是使我们的国家免于战争。政府政策的目的在于保持我国的中立，达成我们目标的最佳方式，即是让我们身处最佳的位置，无人因此能够攻击或侵扰我们的领土而不受惩罚。中立政策对小国而言是一种跳脱大国权力政治的安全策略。国际上许多小国，例如奥地利、瑞典、丹麦等，皆采取中立政策的国家。然而，相较于其他的中立国，爱尔兰的中立政策展现其以下几项特色。首先，第一项特色是爱尔兰的中立政策是一种实际于传统的政府政策。国际上的部分中立国，例如奥地利，于宪法中订有中立国的相关条款。然而，爱尔兰的中立定位仅为一种政策传统，爱尔兰的中立政策因此显得比较抽象。第二个特色是，爱尔兰的中立政策并非采取严格的中立立场，而是选择具有弹性的有利策略。以二战时期的爱尔兰中立政策为例，虽然爱尔兰官方上是选择中立，但是在战争过程中仍做出以下贡献，包括同意爱尔兰公民加入英军，对英国提供农产物资及补给等。当代爱尔兰的中立政策随着非传统安全的兴起，其内涵也出现了转变。爱尔兰中立政策的存在发展已成为学界及政界争辩的议题。以下则就非传统安全冲击下爱尔兰中立政策的弱化与强化两种面向，探讨爱尔兰中立政策的变迁。首先，在爱尔兰中立政策的弱化方面，与当代其他国家一样，随着非传统安全的兴起，爱尔兰也需要与其他国家一起合作，方能解决方兴未艾的跨国安全问题。爱尔兰于二战后继续维持官方的中立政策，但是却开始积极参与国际及区域组织，以增强爱尔兰于国际政治及区域整合中的角色。这些外交合作的努力使爱尔兰的中立政策遭受到挑战，包括政界或学界出现了质疑的声浪，认为爱尔兰的中立政策已经受到弱化并成为一种迷思。举例而言，学者塞门主张，中立的概念对爱尔兰而言既不适合也不适用，因为数世纪以来，爱尔兰屡屡未能达到中立的标准。国际关系中目前没有概念能够适用爱尔兰 爱尔兰的个案是独特的，同时也是非中立的。爱尔兰的前总理费兹杰拉德也认为，爱尔兰中立是一种迷思。他表示，爱尔兰是否可以被称为中立，杞人疑窦，因为以其对英国秘密援助的规模论，难以符合国际法下中立的概念。随着非传统安全的兴起，爱尔兰中立政策获得强化，并展现更丰富的面貌。相较于上述有关爱尔兰中立政策遭到弱化的主张，另一派的主张则是认为，随着非传统安全的兴起，爱尔兰的中立政策获得强化，并展现更丰富的面貌。特别是非传统安全兴起后，使传统的中立概念显得过于狭隘。爱尔兰的中立政策希望将过去独善其身的中立思维扩大到积极参与，爱尔兰中立的内涵因此随之增大。举例而言，爱尔兰透过联合国、欧盟以及北大西洋公约组织，可以与其他国家共同致力于面对非传统安全的议题挑战，例如经济安全、恐怖主义、移民问题等。而这些非传统安全出现的问题，皆非单一国家能够解决。面对21世纪非传统安全的问题挑战，爱尔兰采取一种更为宽广的中立政策，相较于二战时期采取军事中立的防守策略，借以回避复杂的国际战争。当今的爱尔兰则采取积极的中立政策。爱尔兰展现参与国际事务的意愿及能力，使爱尔兰从国际政治舞台上的被动客体，转为寻求合作与发展的主动主体。此外，爱尔兰加入国际组织的同时，一方面对军事中立仍保持谨慎的态度，另外一方面则希望透过加入国际组织的活动，以提升爱尔兰国家安全的保障。举例而言，爱尔兰基于军事中立的考量，并未加入北大西洋公约组织，但与北约建立和平伙伴的务实合作关系。爱尔兰国防部长雪特强调，爱尔兰与北约的和平伙伴关系是一种互补的合作，而不是与爱尔兰中立传统互斥的活动。见此，爱尔兰并未拘泥于传统中立的框架下，相反的，随着当代安全概念的扩展，爱尔兰的中立模式试图超越传统的中立概念。爱尔兰化被动的孤立为主动合作，使爱尔兰维持中立之际，同时扩大国家安全与影响力。因此，爱尔兰的中立政策其内涵因此获得扩大及强化。有关爱尔兰中立政策的最新发展，2022年俄乌战争爆发后，面对芬兰与瑞典转向申请加入北约，爱尔兰国内因而出现有关中立政策的辩论及反思。爱尔兰总理瓦拉卡德表示，爱尔兰应继续维持中立政策，并强调我们非常清楚我们的政策是什么，我们不会加入北约或任何的其他军事联盟，我们将投资我国国防军力。根据2023年6月份的民调，并呼应爱尔兰政府维持中立政策的观点。该份民调显示，超过60%的爱尔兰民众支持政府维持目前的中立政策，仅有26%的爱尔兰民众支持改变既有中立政策的模式。俄乌战争的进展牵动欧洲国家政治军事的角力，保持着近100年中立传统的爱尔兰，其中立政策是否在未来会出现调整的可能性，例如加入北约或是其他的军事联盟，值得后续进一步观察。爱尔兰中立政策的经验启发包括，爱尔兰中立政策展现出务实主义的特色，同时也展现了弹性的优点。在未来展望部分，爱尔兰的中立模式面临了一个两难。当代的爱尔兰中立政策展现开放包容的中立内涵，包括上述务实及弹性的优点。爱尔兰中立政策的优点亦同时凸显出爱尔兰中立政策的发展盲点。究竟中立的界限应如何界定，亦或爱尔兰中立仅为一个迷思？对于爱尔兰政府与民众而言，仍需找到更清楚的共识和答案。有关本文的报告就先到这边结束。欢迎各位师长先进赐教。
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here to have this presentation. And let me share my screen first. My topic here is about Beyond the Tent War, the CSR of industrial tent development. It seems that there is war everywhere. There is a war between Ukraine and Russia. There is a war between Israel and Hamas. And there is a war between or among many corporations to compete for talent. That's why I use this topic to tell about the industrial perspective of CSR, to discuss why the CSR, and please allow me to solve connection problem, and I 以外的这种人才产业的议题啊，那找不到人才，到处都有不住人。事实上，以台湾这几年来看的话 ，TSMC 啊，台积电每年都吸引了全台湾所有好几千名理工科毕业的人啊，他大概有6、7千人这么多啊。那而且呢，在疫情之后，这种人才的议题就变得更加的严重了，因为以台湾来讲的话呢，很多尤其是服务业或者是制造业，大概都会有这种缺工的问题。事实上，在台湾2011年的时候 ，Seneca Academy 啊，中研院他们就曾经发表过一个人才宣言，去提到说台湾很需要去吸引全世界各国的一个人才。那么到了2023年的时候呢，其实台湾在产业界还有在这一些媒体界也发起了一个运动，叫做台湾人才永续行动联盟。那我们去看这些人才的议题的时候，会发现到说，它不会是只有单一企业或者是单一劳工个人要去忧心的部分。事实上，它本身它就是一个集体的问题啊。那尤其像在2023年的时候，有一个流行语 buzzword 叫做quiet quitting 啊，我们称之为安静躺平。这种安静躺平其实反映到说，就劳动业来讲的话，很多的劳工他们可能也不会想花费太多的心力在他们的工作上面啊。所以说，以台湾现在的这种劳动市场发展来看的话，有关于人才发展其实是一个很大的问题啊。那么在McKinsey 他们在10几年前的时候就曾经去发表过一本书这本书谈的是这种人才战争的问题，因为呢，他们也预见到说，全世界对于人才的一种竞争是一个非常重要的议题。那这样子的一个预见呢，到了现在来看的话，似乎更加的明显哦。所以说，我们在人才战争之外的话呢，他谈到的是一种产业界或者是企业去争夺人才。可是呢，我们在这一个人才战争之外，我们更应该要去看的是说，我们用什么样子的角度去看这种人才竞争的一个问题啊。所以说，以这一个我自己的一个想法来讲的话呢，人才和公共财它其实是一体之两面啊，或者我们应该是说，人才它不应该是企业界视为一个 expense 一种费用的一种科目哦。对企业来讲的话呢，它当然是一种 asset， 也就是一种资产。但如果我们放在整个社会上面来看的话呢，人才更是个公共财。原因在于说，一个人才的培养，它会有一个外溢效果，因为它会对整个社会都有好处。那么传统上面的企业，他们也是因为觉得说，我如果花费我的钱的成本去培养一个人才的话，那万一他把他的这一些知识资产、他的才能带走的话，那对我企业来讲，它就是一种损失。所以说，从企业界的角度来看的话，他们只愿意投注最低的一种成本在人才上面，而不愿意投资在过度的上面啊。那原因就是因为说人才它具有一种公共财的特质啊，但是也因为人才具有公共财的特质，对台湾政府来讲的话，我们劳动部或者像是国科会或者是我们的经济部，也一直是把这种培养产业人才或者培养技术人才、培养高科技人才视为一种政府的责任。那这里就涉及到我们这边在荧幕上面所看到的第二个问题啊，谁要对于产业人才的发展负起责任呢？那传统上面的话呢，甚至很多企业会觉得说，这是你们政府的责任，我们企业呢只要好好的赚钱，好好的盈利，这个就是对我们社会最大的贡献啊。但是呢，自从20几年前，我们开始出现到 CSR Corporate Social Responsibility 这样子的概念的时候，很多企业开始会认真的看待说，企业应该对社会上面负有一个责任。尤其在刚刚教授们的演讲里面也都谈到了有关于 ESG 的部分。那 ESG 的部分其实它不是只有环境面我们必须要去承担责任，在社会面或者在公司的治理面也应该要去承担更多的一个责任。所以从社会面来看的话呢，这一些企业去培养人才，它其实也是去尽到企业的社会责任。 那企业的社会责任，它的重要性是在于说，它不但有助于个别企业的一个发展，而且呢，它其实也创造出一种共生共荣的一种生态圈。我们去看台湾这几十年来经济发展来看的话呢，其实就已经可以看到说，也是因为我们共同的去培养这些人才，那这些人才是社会所共用的，那也造就了整个台湾整体环境的繁荣和发展。所以说 CSR 呢，它不但对于个别的企业是有助于它提升它的这种它的形象，那但是呢，整体来讲的话，它其实也可以创造出更高的一个收益啊。所以说我个人会认为到说，我们应该是把这个 CSR 当成是一个管道啊，或者当成是一个媒介来去发展出一个企业的产业界的一个人才啊。那对于企业来讲的话呢，我们去培养这些员工啊，大概是可以从3个角度去看到说它的一个好处。第一个呢，它可以培养员工啊，让他有更多的专业技能。还有呢，它可以去用在企业自己的发展上。那第二个部分来讲的话，从这个 attraction 的部分来看的话呢，员工他也会发现到说，企业的价值观可以跟我个人员工的价值观是匹配的。那而且呢，对员工来讲的话呢，他也会有这种社会的参与感。那最后一点，从 retention 的角度来看的话，那么企业它也会有它自己企业文化的促进。还有呢，可以增进员工对企业的一个认同感，那同时也是会增加员工他们的这种工作满足感。所以整体来讲，就像前页所提到的一个部分哦 ，CSR 它对于企业本身而言，它其实是一种 win-win 的一种角度啊。那最后我们就看到说，从政府和企业他们的一个 collaboration 来看的话，企业和政府它其实是一种分工和合作的一个关系哦。对企业来讲的话呢，我去培养我个别企业的一种人才，那但是呢，政府来讲的话呢，我要的是整体这种公共财的培养啊。所以说，对我们现在的一个劳动部来讲的话呢，大概也看出了这一点。其实长期以来，我们都一直是去做这样子的一个培育的工作，而且呢，从这个有一本书哦，《Entrepreneur Government》这一本书来看的话呢，其实他也去提出了一个观点，是说很多时候企业创造的利润并不是企业自己的投入，而是因为有政府的投资啊。所以说最后一点，我们会希望说不要有太多 silent take over 的一个情况，就是说企业它在整个盈余之这么多扩大它的盈余之后啊，它其实是一直想要去透过公共政策、法律的影响政府。可是呢，另外一个角度来看的话呢，我们会更希望说，企业界可以多一点经济的民主，可以去让整个产业圈啊，或者整个生态圈可以达到更好的一个地步啊。那以上是我的分享，谢谢大家 ，Thanks。
This academic conference was truly captivating, and I believe the students in the audience have gained valuable insights. This conference has made us more aware of the importance of sustainable development, provide a better understanding of concepts such as ESG, SDG, and giving us primarily understanding of the economic and trade development between Taiwan and Poland. It has also allowed in-depth explorations of Iran's neutrality policies and the concept of human resources and sustainable development. We appreciate everyone's enthusiastic participation, making this event even more enriching and meaningful. Taiwan Philanthropic Studies institutions place great importance on academic exchange. Through interaction with scholars from the different cultures, countries, and academic backgrounds, we can broaden our prospects and gain insight into the device, research, and practice related to sustainable development in various regions. This allows for the more comprehensive and profound explorations of the relevant issues. Once again, thank you so much to expert scholars who participated in the lectures. Your involvement has provided valuable opportunity cultivated awareness of the global environmental trends among the younger generation and has contributed to the nurturing more thinkers and the leaders for a new future. We're looking forward to coming together again in the near future, continually to share and exchange for our exertions and ideas for sustainable development.